They're just sitting there dormant, listening, watching, gathering information. I mean, these are the ones that we know about because they're in the news. How many of
Right.
these aren't in the news, right?
This episode is made possible by OIT VoIP. Find your best-in-class revenue generation for MSPs all over the world. Learn more via the link in the show notes.
Good morning and welcome to the October 8th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I'm Orsini, joined by my co-host, Mr. Josh Hohbein. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, pretty good. It was a little bit of a disappointing sports weekend on my end, but it's a beautiful October.
Are you a pumpkin spice kind of guy?
Oh, 100%, dude. I'm a basic
Okay.
white girl. As soon as that hits, man, every pumpkin, everything.
I found these pure protein pumpkin spice latte flavor, and it is so good. You know what else is good? The news. As Tony would say, let's get into the news.
Before we get into the news, we actually have some community feedback from our September 26th episode in response to our story about LinkedIn addressing data collection for AI training. Pricey Built comments, I think the LinkedIn event is where legislation is required. I know a lot of people claim restrictive legislation impedes innovation, and perhaps it does, but this sort of thing cannot be allowed to continue. If you don't want to impede innovation by implementing restrictive controls like the EU does, then legislate penalties for breaches. Penalties that are set as a percentage of revenue, not profit, will ensure multi-billion-dollar companies enforce their own internal controls to stop privacy breaches. Would LinkedIn have allowed something like that to happen if it cost them 5% of their annual revenue? Hell no. Thanks for the feedback. Now we can get into the news. Ray, what do you have for us?
Here we go. And my first story coming straight from Reddit. Reddit is making a site-wide protest basically impossible in a story written by Jay Peters for The Verge. Reddit is implementing new rules that limit moderators' control over community settings, requiring admin approval to make a subreddit private or change its content rating. This change comes in response to last year's protests, during which many communities went private to oppose Reddit's API pricing changes, making the platform less accessible for visitors. As a result, Reddit argues that unrestricted changes to community types were being used to harm the platform. Moderators can still protest, but not in ways that disrupt Reddit's functionality. Additionally, smaller communities will receive automatic approval for requests, while temporary restrictions on posts are allowed without admin involvement for up to 7 days. Josh, is this a community protecting itself, or is this Reddit censoring the moderators?
This is Reddit protecting themselves. We actually had this conversation in a couple of mod communities I'm in. What happens now is it kind of takes away the actions from the moderators. If your subreddit is marked as safe for work, you can't mark it not safe for work without approval. Thinking like a bad actor from a cybersecurity perspective. Well, if you're not going to let me mark it as not safe for work, I'm just not going to moderate and let it run rampant. I see what Reddit's trying to do, and I'm not opposed to it. They're trying to protect their brand and their company because there was a very wide backlash when those API things happened. But at the same time, I mean, the moderators are voluntary. Having that open dialogue and kind of working with them seems to be a better change. However, I can't fault the admins. As a moderator, I'm not upset or anything. It is what it is. I mean, if I do get that upset, I'm just not going to use the site. Ray, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree with you. It's protecting the platform completely and 100% understand it, respect it. Like the API changes, protecting revenue in advance of the IPO. It's not the what, it's the execution. Most people know I'm one of the moderators of our MSP. We have 7 or 8 moderators and 189,000 members. Stuff gets missed, and we have to prioritize, of course, on what we do. And Reddit exists because Dig went, sideways. How much longer before Reddit goes that direction? Josh, you're in a bunch of communities, including you're an admin of the MMN Discord. What percentage of your time is spent on Reddit versus the other communities?
Most of it is going to be in Discord, but I would say, secondary like Reddit, Discord, then Reddit. So I still spend a significant amount of time when I'm, searching for things like that. And again, as a moderator, there are some things that are definitely more difficult.
I think this is one of those things that's probably going to affect moderators at every end of the gamut. If you're one of those moderators or Redditor and you feel this may affect you, let us know in the comments or let us know in the MMN Discord. You know who else is listening? Not the feds, but somebody's listening to the feds. Josh, tell us about your next story, man.
In my next story from Reuters.com, Chinese hackers breached U.S. court wiretap systems, the Washington Street Journal reports. Chinese hackers reportedly breached the networks of United States broadband providers, accessing systems used for court-authorized wiretapping, according to the Wall Street Journal. Telecom giants like Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen Technologies were affected, with hackers possibly maintaining access for months. The attackers also obtained other internet traffic data. United States investigators have linked the breach to a Chinese hacking group named Salt Typhoon, aiming to gather intelligence. China's foreign ministry denied involvement, criticizing the United States for creating a false narrative. This incident follows the United States disruption of another Chinese hacking group, Flax Typhoon, earlier this year, amid ongoing concerns over cyber espionage campaigns originating from China.
My thing is, we see so many data breaches, right? I coined the term LastPassy. They're the gift that just keeps on giving, although hopefully they go private soon. We've seen Fortinet. Fortinet's also the gift that keeps on giving. And the whole point of this is data exfiltration. That's where you get those dark web alerts. Your last name was found in 157 locations. And I don't care. The question's always not what, but when. I can't even fathom how you would approach protecting that. Offline storage, maybe. I don't know, Josh. Was this an expected thing for you, or were you a little more optimistic than me?
Unfortunately, the older I get, the more layers my tinfoil hat gets. You just assume that it's out there, and take your steps to protect it. When we've seen these high profile attacks, I mean, there was the Volt Typhoon was who hacked the Microsoft, right? So they're just sitting there dormant, listening, watching, gathering information. I mean, these are the ones that we know about because they're in the news. How many of these aren't in the news, right?
Sure, you get people scared to report. Yes, they have reporting requirements, but also they take a huge hit financially when they report. Josh, let me ask you: you're still living the MSP life. You operate as an engineer at an MSP. Is there a case for when you have highly sensitive data like this, and you're going to have to wait for it? How about just receive and store offline immediately until it's needed?
My neighbor works for wind turbine wind farms, a very large one, and they a lot of their stuff is like the SCADA, the off network. They have a lot of outdated equipment, or if we're looking at just kind of how to secure things properly anyway, if you have an outdated like Windows XP machine, how do you secure it? I think that's the best answer, right? Just if we're gonna keep with the 80s references, you pull an ET and you dig a hole in the desert and you just hide him in there for somebody to find.
I'll go a little more recent. Stuxnet, right? Stuxnet hitting the SCADA machines, completely air gapped, and they were targeting and successful at hitting SCADA machines. Absolutely insane. Maybe we should get some MMN branded tinfoil hats, because between the stories we cover and just working every day, I don't know how we don't end up in a padded room. But where we should end up are the community events. Let's bring those up real quick. In our upcoming community events, we have the Deep Cyber Dive 2024 MSP Revenue Blueprint presented by FinSecurity and Empath. It's going to be a virtual event, October 8th through 10th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. And yours truly will be on the last day with Reg Harnish talking about how to actually take these and turn them into actionables. We have the Channel Pro Live Dallas in-person event, October 9th through October 10th in Dallas, Texas. We have Scaling Your Microsoft Cloud Practice with Automation, presented by Roost, a virtual event hosted on October 10th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And lastly, we have Seven Figure MSP Live in-person event, October 15th through the 17th in San Antonio, Texas. And with that, Josh, we've rounded out another episode of MSP Dispatch. Thanks to everybody that watched. Please hit us up in the comments, hit us up on the Discord. Grab your tinfoil hat, send us pictures on the Discord so we can compare tinfoil hat fashion. Thanks so much, Josh, for doing it, and I'll see you in the next one, man.
Sounds good.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.